one more drink and go down and cut that shark open.
Martin? Can you do that?
I can do anything. I'm the chief of police.
Roy Scheider was interesting, story of how I cast him, because here's a situation where I was going after other actors. I went after a whole series of actors for him, a lot of them unknowns, people that no one had ever heard of before, but I was familiar with from seeing Serpico, and there was an actor in Serpico I kind of liked, and another actor on an off-Broadway play I had just seen. But the studio and Zanuck and Brown were kind of urging me to get a name in this part, and I was having trouble finding a name that I liked and who would do it. And I remember I was at a party one night.
And my agent brought me over to be introduced to him. And he was having a conversation with a writer named Tracy Keenan Wynn. And as I approached him, I heard a conversation that went something like this. We're going to have this giant shark come out of the water and land on a boat and crack the boat in half. And then I was introduced to him. And he said hello. He was very polite, very nice, very pleasant. And then as I was walking away, they picked up this conversation again. And I remember saying to my agent as we walked away, I said, those guys, they got to be kidding. They got to be kidding. A giant shark that cracks a boat in half? I thought they were loony.
I told him the entire story. At the end of the story, he said, wow, that's a great story. What about me? I looked at Roy and I said, yeah, you'd be a great Chief Brody, because I had loved Roy from The French Connection, where he played Gene Hackman's partner. And that's how that came about.
Listen, can you tell me how I could find Chief Brody?
Who are you?
Matt Hooper. I'm from the Oceanographic Institute.
Richard Dreyfuss wasn't my first choice either. I went to John Voight first, and he said no, and I think I interviewed Timothy Bottoms. I had interviewed a number of actors, perhaps Jeff Bridges. I was a big fan of the entire cast from Last Picture Show. I remember saying, if I can just get every member of the cast to say no to me to play the Hooper character, at least I will have gone to one of my favorite movies of all time to have gone out after that group. So I think Bridges and Bottoms, and I think we got turned down, or there were unavailability problems. In the movies, these things happen all the time. People either want to do it and they can't because they're booked into something else. And I remember Dreyfuss. I cast Dreyfuss basically because I loved American Graffiti, and I had seen him in that. And George Lucas was the person who sort of said to me, "Why don't you cast Ricky Dreyfuss? He'd be great."
And he told me this movie that he wanted to make, and it was really a shocker. I mean, even as he was telling it to me as a tale, it was a great, exciting story. These three guys alone on the boat, and the shark attacking the boat, and at the end he said, "You want to make this film?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, this sounds like it's going to be a great movie. I'd rather watch this movie than shoot it, because it's going to be a bitch to shoot." And I said, and he was surprised, but I said, I wouldn't do well under these circumstances, so I said no. Then a few months later, I went to see the opening of a film that I had done in Canada. It was the premiere of a film called The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. And I saw myself, really for the first time, in the lead in a movie with my face 15 feet high on screen for 90 minutes. And I had a heart attack. I had a total nervous collapse. I thought I was awful. And I figured that I'd better get a job really soon. So I called Stephen, and I said, "If you still want to offer me that job, I'll take it." And he said, yes. So in essence, I came crawling to Martha's Vineyard for the part.
I don't want no volunteers. I don't want no mates. There's too many captains on this island. $10,000 for me by myself. For that, you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
My first choice to play Quint was Lee Marvin. And I wanted to go for Lee Marvin to play Quint, but Lee Marvin wasn't interested. And I think I think what I heard was he wanted to go fishing for real. He took his fishing seriously and didn't want to go fishing from a movie boat with cameras, and that wasn't his idea of a vacation. Turned out not to be anybody's idea of a vacation, making Jaws. My second choice was Sterling Hayden, who I thought would make an amazing, Quint. He had an Ahab quality about him, and he had actually done a movie years ago where he played a whaler with a harpoon that he carried around with him. Very imposing character, and I was a big fan of his from certainly Dr. Strangelove and the two Kubrick films he did. And as it turned out, he couldn't do it either. I forgot actually what the reason was he couldn't do it. And there were other actors who wanted to play Quint, and then Dick Stanton and David Brown suggested Robert Shaw. It was their idea because they had just worked with Robert Shaw in The Sting, which they produced, and loved him. And I screened 2 movies I'd already seen of Shaw's just to refresh my memory. And one of them, of course, was A Man for All Seasons. And he was spectacular in that. And based on that, and of course, From Russia with Love, that great fight scene where he played the nemesis of 007 in the train, I said, wow, I wish I had thought of it. It's a great idea. So he fortunately said yes.
Robert was one of the most powerful people I've ever met. Incredibly intense. I mean, it was something that radiated out of him. He was a remarkably gifted actor and writer. He was also, unfortunately, the most extraordinarily competitive person, unnecessarily competitive. And I think that probably, if anything, that was his flaw.
You got city hands, Mr. Hooper. Been counting money all your life.
All right. Hey, I don't need this. I don't need this working-class hero crap.
You're not going to do this aboard the ship, are you, Mr. Quint?
Michael! Did you hear your father? Out of the water now! Now!
The first person I cast for the movie, in fact, was Lorraine, who I had loved in a TV movie I had seen her do called The Marcus Nelson Murders, starring Telly Savalas and herself, I believe, as Telly's wife, in that, and thought she was a very natural actress, almost improvisational in her style, and she brought a realism to the movie, a real realism to that family, which I wanted in the film.
Well, Ellen is very clear to me and always has been. You say Roy Scheider, his character, feels guilt because of the children. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I'm Jewish. What could be clearer to me than how to make somebody feel guilty? This is something that I do in my sleep. It's what I've trained for. And I have 2 sons, just like Ellen Brody.
Martin, it's all psychological. You yell barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
Murray Hamilton I had just been a big fan of from the FBI story with James Stewart to The Graduate, and that great scene, with Dustin Hoffman, where he tells Dustin to go off and sow some wild oats. And I just always wanted to work with him. I don't know, I was a big fan of his and saw him instantly as the mayor of Amity. So for me, that was, I didn't have to go through 9 actors. He was the first choice for that part, and I was lucky enough to get him.
I've got to talk to Mrs. Kintner because this is going to turn into a contest.
Look, it's not just the Gazette. She's advertising in out-of-town papers. Now, people are going to be all over New England are going to know about it.
Most painful thing I've ever done as a writer is to take my part as an actor and make it smaller and smaller and smaller until it was almost gone. Even though I had good billing, I didn't follow through on screen with the amount of screen time I would have liked as an actor, but it turned out that it was better for the script that my character not be there so much.
Amity Island has long been known for its clean air, clear water, and beautiful white sand beaches. But in recent days, a cloud has appeared on the horizon of this beautiful resort community. A cloud in the shape of a killer shark.
One of the geniuses of David Brown was to realize that he could play upon the egos of writers and actors and other people who are not in the movie business necessarily by convincing us that only by our appearing in the film could the film achieve its true greatness. So he came to me and said, would I consider possibly as a favor to him being in this movie? Well, to a person who's done television for 4 years, to be in a feature film, this was not exactly a request that I found it difficult to accept.
In Amity Island, this is Alan Craig, I want to try that end again. Okay? All right. And there you have it. 2 different opinions by 2 men of goodwill. But here in Amity, it seems it's the public that's making up its mind. On Amity Island, this is Alan Craig. All right, Murray, that'll do it.
Save it.